Hello, everyone. This is Janelle from Hustling Hotties, host of the Big Dreamers series, and I'm here with Amanda Krill. Hi, Amanda. How are you?
Hi, I'm good. How are you?
Good, thank you. Can you tell us about your business?
Yeah, so I kind of have two things going on right now. I'm a web designer, which I've been doing for about 12 years. I started that because I had little kids and bills to pay, and I had 3 kids under 4, and like the cost of childcare is outrageous. So I had to figure out some way to work from home because I just flat out couldn't afford to do a real job and have the kids. So I kind of made it work. And then I'm also kind of now doing a travel writing business too, which maybe someday will be the only thing that I do. But for now, I mostly do web design, branding, copywriting, a little bit of social media for clients, but not a whole lot of that, more along the lines of web design.
Gotcha. Yeah, I understand. The struggle is real because it doesn't make sense to pay for childcare when you can work from home. By the time you go to a job, it costs the same amount of money. You may as well just stay home.
Yeah, I was substitute teaching because my husband taught, and I was like, okay, well, that's easy. We'll have the same hours and everything. But at the end of the day, I made like $10 a day. And after paying the childcare, and I was like, I'm never like, how is this even going to work? It doesn't make any sense. So.
Yeah, I get it. So 12 years in web design, which kudos to you. Congratulations. What strategies have you used to make this business and the travel blogging successful so far?
Well, mostly, just trying to provide good service, making sure not to let things slip through the crack, paying attention to details, things like that. Just taking really good care of your clients is what I found to be the real key to, because I don't advertise at all. Like I never do any Facebook ads or anything like that. And it's all just word of mouth. So for 12 years, I've paid the bills with just everybody, referring other people to me because I try to take really good care of my clients. So
that's perfect. I am such a big component of genuine connections. And it seems like that's a lost art these days, but it seems like you've mastered it.
I don't know about mastery, but I do try really hard. But yeah, I think connecting with people is really that's the key to everything in life, really. Having an honest connection with somebody and working with people that you really like and really get you, I think that really helps too.
Definitely. So what is an outrageous goal that you set for yourself that you've accomplished?
Well, like I said, when I very first started, I had bills to pay. And to be more specific about that, I had $64,000 of credit card debt.
Ooh, what were you shopping on?
I don't even know what I bought, to be completely honest. And the worst part was that my husband did not know about it. It was all stuff he didn't know about. And I was like, okay, so I can't, not that I thought he was going to kick me out or anything like that. I just didn't want to burden him with that because that's a lot. We only owed $100,000 on our house and I get $64,000 of credit card debt. Who does that? So I don't know what happened, but I don't make excuses for it. It happened. And really, I feel like it happened for a reason, because if I hadn't gotten into the debt, I wouldn't have started the business. And, I ended up paying it off in just over 2 years. And just because I was able to, get enough clients and with my husband's assistance, once he finally found out, we had a little fight about it, to be honest, but he forgave me and it all worked out. And it ultimately led to him leaving his teaching job because he really hated it. And he was like, if you can make enough money to pay that much money off, why would I keep working in a job I hate? So he ended up starting his own business too. So yeah, it all worked out.
Yeah, no, that's perfect. I love that story. Have you put that story out there anywhere? That
yeah,
like a blog post and,
Yeah, I talk about it a lot because at first I was super embarrassed about it, but then I realized that, everybody makes mistakes, and really that mistake led to so many good things that I felt like people should know that, don't let a mistake that you've made, don't let it make you think that you're worthless or you can't do anything, because that mistake could really turn into something that is amazing. So I try to, I talk about it a lot, even though Now I get the reaction of, what the heck did you do?
That's a lot, but been there, done that. So I understand. So, what would you tell your 15-year-old you?
Well, 15-year-old me, I had no idea what I wanted to do. I had no plans really whatsoever. I went to college not knowing what I really wanted to do. I ended up with an English degree, and I wish I would have gotten a business degree because that would have been a lot more valuable in the long run. I mean, who has an English degree? It's just such a stupid thing, but it has gotten my foot in the door. Just the fact that I have a degree. So I'm glad that I went to college and I followed the path that I did, but I would definitely tell 15-year-old me to think more about business and less about just that you like to read, because what a stupid degree.
I love it. I love it. So on that same accord, if you could give an entrepreneur one little nugget of advice, what would it be?
I think, make genuine, like we were saying before, make genuine connections with people. Don't let it just be, I want to be this person who is big and have all these followers. And, I think people have an ideal of, I want to be at this level, but they don't realize that the people who are at that level put in years of time to get there and made genuine connections with people who introduced them to other people. And it all kind of just falls into place if you just really get to know other people. It always just seems to work out really well that way.
Yeah, I agree 100%. I love it. So if you could tell me, is there one person who you would say has helped you get to the point that you are today? Just one. If you could pick one person, who would that be?
Oof. Let me think. I would say Marie Forleo, really. She was one of my first clients, and I worked with her for 2 years, and everything that I learned from her had really carried me through to where I am now. Like, if I hadn't worked with her, I obviously wouldn't have met a ton of the people that I've met. I really wouldn't have ever learned web design because I was her virtual assistant, and this was like way back in the day before she was big, and she didn't want to hire another person. So she's like, can you just figure this out? And I was like, yeah, all right, I'll try. And then I figured out how to do it. And then I just started doing it on the side and eventually just moved all into just web design. So yeah, really working with her changed my life.
I love it. Perfect. So is there a must-read book that you have? Do you have a book that was life-changing for you?
Yeah, the Strengths Finder book. It's actually like only 3 chapters long, I think, if I remember correctly, but it's called Strength Finder something or other.
Oh, 2.0. Somebody referred this. Yeah, somebody referred this to me this week because I was like, I want to work on my strengths. And so, yeah.
Oh my gosh. Like, before I read that book, I honestly, if somebody asked me, what are you good at? I would have been like, I don't know. I don't really see any of, and I think everybody's like this. The things that come easy to me, I don't see those as strengths because they just are the way I am. So I didn't really think of any of those things as something special. So Marie told me to read that book, and you get it, and it's like 3 chapters long, and then you take the test, and then it tells you, and it was so spot on accurate that I'm like, oh my gosh, like, I didn't even realize I did that. Like, I didn't know that was something that everybody doesn't do. That's very interesting. And it really gives you confidence in your abilities and, what you were put on the planet to do, because I don't know, before that, it didn't all fit together.
I love it. Yeah, I'm going to get it. Somebody was talking about that book. Yeah.
You have to.
Last week. I'm going to get it. I will order it today. So what is your favorite quote?
Oh, it's pretty cliche, I guess, but the whole well-behaved women never make history, whatever that actually, it's probably my favorite, because I feel like, at least where I grew up in the Midwest, it's like, Bible Belt and women are supposed to act a certain way, and I don't act that way, so it makes me feel better about myself.
So what is your next big dream that you have, your next big goal? What are you going after next?
Well, honestly, I really still love designing people's websites, and I love, you know, taking a person and turning it into a website, which is really what my goal is. I want every website to be an online representation of my client, so that when their clients land on the website, they're like, oh, this is the person I've been looking for. Like, I still really love doing that, but I also really love traveling. And if there was a way that I could somehow merge those two, then that would be my huge dream. But I may just, you know, start doing more travel writing. I don't know. I'm kind of up in the air about it.
So then with that, what's your favorite place to travel?
Oh, well, you know, I love Europe, but I also love here. My husband and I just took our kids on a big 16-day RV road trip through California and like all the national parks. And it was so amazing. But then I'm going to Italy next month for a yoga retreat, and I'm super excited about that too. So I guess I like to go anywhere. That's, I guess, anywhere.
I love it. I love it. Amanda, how can we participate in what you have going on? Maybe get a website design, or we can read about your blog. What are your social medias, your website? Tell us everything.
Yeah, so all my social medias are just like, you know, if it's Instagram, Twitter, whatever, it's all /Amanda Krill. It's all just my name. I'm on Instagram, Pinterest, Twitter, Facebook, obviously. I'm, you know, just on all of them, and it's always Amanda Krill. And my website is amandakrill.com, and that's where I do web design out of. You can look at my portfolio, or, you know, peek around at my blog where I do talk about my debt and some other crazy things. And then my travel website is justboldlygo.com. And I usually blog all of our trips on there eventually. I haven't gotten them all on there, but the 16-day road trip is on there. So if you want to follow along with that and see all the crazy stuff we saw.
I love it. And Amanda has offered you guys a free gift. If you guys will scroll down and click the link on the page, you'll get access to that. Amanda, thank you so much for being with me today.
And no problem. Thanks for inviting me.
No problem.